My name is Vanessa Cole. I'm 36 years old, and the night I discovered my husband was secretly meeting his mistress inside the most expensive hotel in Manhattan was the same night my entire life cracked open. People think betrayal arrives loudly. They imagine screaming arguments, broken dishes, dramatic exits. But real betrayal is quieter than that. It enters your life softly while you're still making dinner, still answering emails, still believing the people you love would never intentionally destroy you. By the time you finally see the truth, the damage has already been happening for years. And that's exactly what happened to me. Before I tell you how one hotel reservation exposed an affair, destroyed my marriage, and eventually collapsed my family's billion-dollar business empire, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, because, trust me, this story gets much darker before it gets better. It started with a notification. That's how modern heartbreak works now. Not lipstick stains, not secret perfume, not late night phone calls. Just a glowing screen, quietly waiting to ruin your entire future. It was raining hard that night. Cold Manhattan rain slammed against the windows of our penthouse, while yellow taxi lights reflected across wet streets 40 floors below. The city looked cinematic and lonely at the same time. I sat curled on the couch, reviewing architectural sketches for a luxury hotel project, while soft jazz drifted through hidden ceiling speakers. Adrian, my husband of 11 years, was supposedly at a late night investor dinner downtown. Nothing unusual. Adrian traveled constantly: meetings, investors, conferences, networking events. After more than a decade together, I had stopped questioning his schedule completely. That's the dangerous thing about trust. Eventually, it becomes automatic. You stop paying attention to details because your heart assumes safety. Adrian's tablet buzzed on the marble coffee table beside me. Normally, I ignored his devices completely. We shared passwords, bank accounts, calendars, our entire lives. I trusted him without hesitation, but the screen lit up again. Condor, reminder. For one innocent second, I actually smiled. Our anniversary was in 2 weeks. Maybe he planned something romantic. I picked up the tablet, expecting flowers or surprises. Instead, I watched my marriage die silently in my hands. The reservation confirmation was from the Windsor Crown, one of the most luxurious hotels in Manhattan. Politicians stayed there, celebrities stayed there, billionaires rented penthouse suites there. The reservation wasn't for next month, it was for tonight. The package title made my stomach collapse instantly. Romantic escape experience. My hands immediately started shaking. I kept reading anyway. Private penthouse suite. Couples massage reservation. Champagne service. Candlelight rooftop dinner overlooking Central Park. Then I saw the guest names: Adrian Cole and Sophia Laurent, Sophia, his assistant. The same woman who smiled in my face during company dinners, the same woman who complimented my dresses and called me inspirational. The same woman who hugged me during our Christmas party while secretly sleeping with my husband behind my back. For a moment, I physically couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen while my brain desperately tried rejecting reality. My chest hurt so badly it felt like someone shoved a knife directly between my ribs. I kept waiting for tears, but they never came. Instead, something colder happened. A terrifying calm spread through me. It felt like a switch flipped somewhere deep inside my chest. Suddenly, every late meeting, every canceled dinner, every urgent conference call, every business trip rearranged themselves inside my mind like puzzle pieces finally forming the correct picture. I wasn't sad yet. I was numb. And deep down, I understood something immediately. This story wasn't going to end with me crying alone in our apartment while Adrian apologized and begged for forgiveness. No, this was going to become the beginning of something much bigger. Because Adrian wasn't the only person who had spent years betraying me. My entire family had quietly built their success on top of my silence. I opened social media and searched Sophia's profile with trembling fingers. Her page was filled with glamorous rooftop dinners, luxury vacations, expensive wine tastings, and smiling photos. Beside her fiance, Ethan Bennett, a financial analyst, he looked kind, genuine. The type of man who remembered birthdays and carried groceries for elderly strangers. My chest tightened painfully. He had no idea. I stared at his profile picture for several seconds before finally sending him a message. Ethan, my name is Vanessa Cole. I believe our partners are together tonight at the Windsor Crown Hotel. I have proof. I thought you deserved to know. I attached screenshots of the reservation. He called me 4 minutes later. His voice sounded broken already. Please tell me this isn't real. God, the pain in his voice nearly destroyed me more than my own heartbreak. I wish I could, I answered quietly. Meet me across from the hotel in 1 hour. There was silence. Then a week shattered. Okay. An hour later, Ethan sat across from me inside a tiny coffee shop while rain streaked down the windows outside. He looked pale and exhausted, like his soul had aged 10 years during the drive there. I slid the tablet toward him without speaking. He read the reservation once, then again, then a third time. Finally, he leaned back, staring blankly at the ceiling. We were trying for a baby, he whispered. That sentence nearly broke me, because betrayal doesn't just destroy relationships, it destroys futures, dreams, entire versions of life people spend years building emotionally. Ethan rubbed his face slowly before asking, what do we do now? The old Vanessa would have cried. She would have gone home and waited for Adrian to return so she could scream and beg for explanations. But the woman sitting there that night felt different. Awake, I looked through the coffee shop window toward the glowing entrance of the Windsor Crown Hotel. Bull. Then I quietly said, I'm not staying home while they celebrate destroying our lives. And Ethan frowned. What does that mean? I pulled out my phone and called the hotel. Good evening, the receptionist answered warmly. Hi, I said sweetly. I'd like to reserve a suite tonight, as close as possible to the reservation under Adrian Cole. Typing sounds. Then the receptionist replied, the adjoining suite is available, Mom. Perfect. I'll take it. Ethan stared at me after I hung up. You're serious? I looked directly into his eyes. Oh, I'm deadly serious. Checking into that hotel felt surreal. Marble floors reflected golden chandelier light, while elegant couples laughed beside fountains, completely unaware. Two lives were collapsing silently inside the elevator beside them. Neither Ethan nor I spoke during the ride upstairs. The silence wasn't awkward. It was grief. When we entered our suite, the connecting door between our room and theirs immediately became impossible to ignore. A thin wall separated devastation from fantasy. At first, we heard nothing. Then laughter. Sophia's laugh, Adrian's voice, champagne glasses clinking, soft romantic music. Every sound stabbed deeper into my chest. Ethan sat heavily on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor while I stood beside the windows, overlooking rainy Manhattan below. For nearly 2 hours, we listened to them, enjoying the destruction of our lives. And somewhere during those 2 hours, another realization started forming inside me. Adrian's betrayal wasn't an isolated wound. It was part of a pattern. My entire life, I had accepted invisibility. Inside Cole Enterprises, my family's billion-dollar architecture and development firm, I was the silent genius behind most of our company's biggest projects. My concepts built luxury hotels, skyscrapers, and eco-conscious developments across New York. But publicly, my older brother Nathan received all the credit. Nathan was charismatic, charming, confident during interviews. Investors loved him. My father worshipped him. Meanwhile, I worked quietly behind the scenes, creating the actual designs, while everyone pretended Nathan was the visionary. You're a team. My father constantly reminded me whenever I questioned it. Family success matters more than personal recognition. So I stayed quiet. I accepted smaller salaries, smaller offices, smaller respect, and Adrian always encouraged it. Be patient, he constantly told me. Your father will eventually appreciate you. Now I understood the truth. None of them wanted me appreciated. Invisible people are easier to control. Around 10:30, the sounds from the next room finally quieted. Silence filled the suite. I stared at the hotel phone for several seconds before finally picking it up. Ethan immediately looked nervous. I dialed the adjoining room. The phone rang twice, then Adrian answered casually. Hello? I smiled coldly. Hi, honey. The silence afterward was beautiful. Heavy, terrified. I could practically hear the blood draining from his face. Vanessa? He whispered. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, I said calmly. I'm actually right next door. Ethan's here too. Chaos exploded instantly. Sophia started yelling. Furniture moved. Adrian cursed under his breath. Panic spread through the wall like electricity. And, for the first time, all night, AB felt powerful. 5 minutes later, Ethan and I walked toward the adjoining suite and knocked on the door. Not softly, not politely. A firm knock. The kind that changes lives forever. For several seconds, nobody answered. I could hear whispers behind the door. Movement. Panic. Then finally, the handle turned slowly. Adrian opened the door wearing a white hotel robe, his face completely drained of color. Behind him, Sophia stood frozen beside the bed, clutching a silk sheet against her chest. Her mascara had smeared slightly beneath her eyes. And for the first time since I met her, she didn't look glamorous. She looked terrified. The expression on their faces was unforgettable. Not guilt. Fear. Pure fear. Vanessa, please. No, I interrupted quietly. You've talked enough. Sophia immediately burst into tears. This isn't what it looks like. I almost laughed. It's exactly what it looks like. Ethan stared at her with devastation in his eyes. I genuinely thought he might collapse. The man looked physically sick. How long? He whispered. Sophia couldn't answer. That silence told us everything. Adrian stepped toward me desperately. We can fix this. That sentence finally made something inside me snap. Fix this? 11 years of lies? Humiliation? Manipulation? And he thought flowers and apologies could repair it? I looked directly into his eyes. The affair isn't the real problem, Adrian. He frowned in confusion. This, I gestured around the room, is just a symptom. Then I walked away. At the time, Adrian thought I meant our marriage. He had no idea. I was talking about something much bigger. The elevator ride downstairs felt endless. Ethan stood beside me, completely silent while rain hammered against the hotel windows outside. His hands shook slightly. When the elevator doors opened into the lobby, he suddenly stopped walking. I don't understand, he whispered. How do people do this to someone they claim to love? God. That question hurt more than the affair itself, because I didn't have an answer. I still don't. I looked at him quietly for several seconds before finally saying, people don't betray you because you're weak. They betray you because they think you'll never leave. That sentence followed me for months afterward, because the more I replayed my marriage inside my mind, the more I realized Adrian stopped respecting me long before he started cheating. Not because I wasn't enough, because I spent years teaching everyone around me that my feelings mattered less than their comfort. That night, I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I rented a temporary luxury apartment downtown overlooking the Hudson River. I sat alone beside the massive bedroom windows until sunrise, watching rain slide down the glass while Manhattan slowly brightened beneath gray morning clouds. And sometime around 5 in the morning, a B finally broke. Not quietly, violently. I remember collapsing onto the bathroom floor, still wearing the same black dress from the hotel. My chest physically hurt from crying. My hands shook uncontrollably while memories attacked me one after another. Our wedding dance, Sunday mornings making coffee together. The night Adrian cried after his mother died while I held him until sunrise. The first apartment we shared. The first Christmas inside our penthouse. Every memory suddenly felt poisoned. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just destroy your future, it rewrites your past. By morning, my eyes were swollen and burning. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. But underneath the heartbreak, something darker had started growing. Anger. Not screaming anger, cold anger, the dangerous kind. Around 8:30, my phone started ringing nonstop. Adrian. Again. And again. And again. 32 missed calls. 12 voicemails. I ignored all of them. Then my mother called. For one stupid second, I thought maybe she was calling to comfort me. I answered immediately. Instead, the first thing she said was, Vanessa, what were you thinking creating a scene at that hotel? I went silent. My chest tightened instantly. What? You embarrassed Adrian publicly, she continued. Do you understand how humiliating this is for the family? I genuinely couldn't believe what I was hearing. He cheated on me, I whispered. And men make mistakes, she snapped back quickly. You don't destroy a marriage over one emotional lapse. One emotional lapse? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because something inside me finally cracked completely. That moment changed everything. Not the affair, not the hotel. My mother defending him, because suddenly I understood the truth about my entire life. Nobody around me ever expected me to choose myself. They expected me to endure, to sacrifice, to stay quiet. That realization opened doors inside my memory I had spent years trying not to look at, like the time Nathan publicly accepted an architecture award for a concept I designed entirely myself while my father proudly clapped beside him, or the dozens of meetings where executives praised my brother's creative vision while I sat silently at the edge of the conference table pretending it didn't hurt, or the countless times Adrian convinced me not to argue because family harmony matters more. Every painful memory suddenly connected together like puzzle pieces, finally forming the truth. I had spent my entire life being emotionally managed, and the people closest to me benefited from it. By noon that day, Adrian finally showed up at the apartment building. I saw him through the lobby cameras downstairs, looking exhausted and desperate while arguing with security. Part of me wanted to hide, part of me wanted to scream. Instead, I told security to send him upstairs. When Adrian entered the apartment, he looked terrible. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. His tie hung loose around his neck, and for the first time in years, he looked genuinely afraid.
Vanessa.
Don't, I interrupted calmly. He stopped immediately. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then suddenly, he dropped to his knees. Actually, dropped to his knees. Tears filled his eyes instantly. It didn't mean anything, he whispered desperately. I swear to God, Vanessa, it was a mistake. I stared at him silently, and strangely, AP felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not revenge, nothing. That terrified me more than anger would have. How long? I asked quietly. He hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. My stomach twisted violently. How long, Adrian? 8 months. The room suddenly felt smaller. 8 months. 8 months of lying to my face. 8 months sleeping beside me every night while secretly meeting another woman. 8 months pretending to love me while destroying me behind my back. I turned away because suddenly I couldn't stand looking at him anymore. Did you love her? No, he answered instantly. That answer hurt worst of all, because if he loved her, at least there would have been emotion attached to the betrayal. But this meant he destroyed our marriage for excitement, ego, selfishness. Then, why? I whispered. Adrian rubbed his face shakily before answering. Because with her, I felt admired. I slowly looked back at him. Admired. That word echoed inside my chest like a gunshot. Because I spent 11 years supporting that man, emotionally, financially, professionally, and personally, while helping him build his career. I defended him, encouraged him, loved him through every failure. And somehow, that still wasn't enough. Sophia admired him. So he destroyed me for attention. You know the worst part? I asked quietly. Adrian looked up at me helplessly. I would have died for you. His face collapsed completely after that sentence. And honestly, good, because I meant it. For 11 years, I built my entire identity around loving him. And he treated that loyalty like something disposable. After he left, I sat alone for hours, staring across the city skyline, while memories replayed endlessly inside my head. But slowly, another emotion started replacing heartbreak: suspicion. Because the more I thought about Adrian's behavior during the past few years, the more certain things stopped making sense, especially regarding Nathan. My older brother, Nathan Cole, was the golden child of our family empire. Charismatic, confident, brilliant in public, investors adored him. Media outlets called him the future of luxury urban development. But privately, Nathan depended on me far more than anyone realized. Most of Cole Enterprises' award winning concepts originated from my architectural research and designs. I created the sustainability systems, I designed the structural aesthetics. I spent years quietly solving problems while Nathan accepted applause publicly. And Adrian knew all of it. Worse, he encouraged it. Whenever I questioned why my father constantly overlooked me, Adrian always gave the same answer: be patient, your time will come. Now I finally understood something horrifying. They never wanted my time to come. Invisible people are easier to control. That night, unable to sleep, I opened old company archives from my laptop. At first, I only searched for distraction. Then I discovered something terrifying. One of my original graduate thesis concepts had been used inside a multi-million-dollar luxury development project 6 years earlier, under Nathan's name. My chest tightened instantly. I opened another project, then another, and another. The deeper I searched, the uglier the truth became. Nathan hadn't borrowed my ideas occasionally. He built his entire reputation on them, and Adrian helped hide it financially through consulting contracts and shell agreements. I physically felt sick. The affair suddenly became secondary. My husband and brother hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, they had quietly stolen years of my work, my talent, and my identity. And somehow, that hurt even worse, because cheating destroys your heart, but being erased destroys your sense of self. I barely slept for the next 3 days. Instead, I investigated. Quickly, carefully, obsessively. I gathered archived files, email chains, time stamped drafts, legal contracts, financial records, and presentation footage from previous investor meetings. Every discovery made me angrier. Nathan publicly called himself a visionary while privately mocking me in emails. One message made my stomach turn completely. Nathan wrote to Adrian, "She's talented, but she's too emotional to lead. Keeping her behind the scenes is better for everyone." Adrian responded, "As long as she feels needed, she'll stay loyal." I stared at those words for nearly 20 minutes because suddenly everything made sense. They didn't respect my loyalty. They managed it, controlled it, used it. And the most humiliating part? It worked. For years. For the next 2 weeks, I became someone I barely recognized. I stopped crying, stopped answering most phone calls, stopped caring about appearances. Instead, I investigated my own life like a stranger trying to solve a crime. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise inside that temporary apartment overlooking the Hudson River and spent hours digging through company archives, financial records, design files, and old investor presentations. Coffee cups piled beside my laptop, while Manhattan slowly brightened outside my windows. Some nights I worked until 3 or 4 in the morning without realizing time had passed at all. The heartbreak was still there, but anger had become stronger, and anger is dangerous when intelligent people finally stop suppressing it. The deeper I searched, the uglier everything became. Nathan hadn't just stolen a few ideas, he had built his entire public identity using my work. Luxury hotel concepts, eco-conscious skyscraper systems, award-winning award-winning residential layouts, entire developments worth hundreds of millions, traced back directly to original designs stored under my name years earlier. And Adrian knew all of it. Worse, he actively helped hide it. One night around 2 in the morning, I discovered private consulting agreements connected to shell companies Adrian secretly managed for Nathan. The contracts transferred design ownership through complicated legal loopholes before projects were publicly announced. My stomach physically turned. They didn't just betray me emotionally, they engineered my invisibility professionally. For years, I leaned back slowly in my chair, staring at the screen while rain tapped softly against the windows outside. Then suddenly, something hit me so hard I almost couldn't breathe. Every person closest to me benefited from me doubting myself. Nathan became successful. My father protected his legacy. Adrian enjoyed the lifestyle my work helped create. And I? I stayed exhausted, overworked, emotionally dependent, and grateful for scraps of recognition. The realization made me feel sick, but it also made something inside me wake up completely. Because for the first time in my life, AB stopped seeing myself as the victim. I started seeing myself as the evidence. 3 days later, Nathan called me personally. "Vanessa," he said smoothly, "we need to handle this situation carefully before things spiral." I almost laughed. Spiral? My husband cheated on me, my family stole from me, and he was worried about situations. "What exactly are you afraid of, Nathan?" I asked calmly. Silence. Then his voice hardened slightly. "Don't make emotional decisions right now." There it was, the sentence I'd heard my entire life. Too emotional, too sensitive, too unstable. Meanwhile, men around me lied, manipulated, cheated, and stole without anyone questioning their judgment. I leaned back slowly in my chair. "You know something funny?" I said quietly. "What?" "For years you convinced me I was weak because I cared about people." Nathan sighed impatiently. "Vanessa." "But the truth is," I interrupted calmly, "you needed me weak because you knew exactly what would happen if I ever stopped protecting all of you." Complete silence. Then he quietly asked, "What exactly are you planning?" That question made me smile so for the first time in days, because suddenly I realized something important. They were afraid. Good. They should be. The following week, Cole Enterprises announced the biggest investor presentation in company history, the Aurora Crown Project, a revolutionary luxury skyscraper planned for downtown Manhattan. Media outlets called it Nathan Cole's masterpiece. Except it wasn't Nathan's masterpiece, it was mine. Every major architectural concept inside that project originated from designs I created nearly 7 years earlier during a private sustainability research initiative. The company buried quietly after my father decided Nathan should become the public face of the firm. That project was my breaking point because suddenly I understood the cruelest part of everything. Nathan wasn't smarter than me. Adrian wasn't stronger than me. They simply benefited from a system that expected me to stay silent. and I was finally done being silent. For nearly another week, I prepared carefully. I organized every document chronologically, archived sketches, original blueprints, time-stamped files, Tinel emails, financial transfers, voice recordings from executive meetings. I barely slept. Sometimes I caught my reflection in apartment mirrors and hardly recognized myself anymore. My eyes looked colder, sharper, like heartbreak burned away the softer version of me completely. And honestly, maybe it had. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan called me. It was nearly midnight when his name appeared on my phone. For a second, I considered ignoring it because emotionally I had nothing left for anyone anymore. But I answered anyway. His voice sounded exhausted. I just found out Sophia moved into Adrian's condo downtown. My chest tightened painfully. Not because I still wanted Adrian, because betrayal still hurt even when you hated the person responsible. I'm sorry, I whispered. Ethan laughed bitterly. You know what's crazy? He said quietly. I still miss her. That sentence shattered something inside me all over again, because people love to talk about betrayal like anger erases love instantly. It doesn't. Sometimes your heart continues grieving someone long after your mind understands they destroyed you. I miss him too sometimes, I admitted softly. The silence afterward felt painfully honest. Then Ethan asked quietly, how do you stop feeling humiliated? God, that question hit deep, because humiliation becomes the hidden wound after betrayal, not sadness, not anger, humiliation, the feeling that someone saw your love and treated it like weakness. I stared out across the glowing Manhattan skyline for several seconds before answering. You stop feeling humiliated, I said quietly, when you realize their betrayal says more about their emptiness than your worth. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Then finally he whispered, I hope you're right. After we hung up, I sat alone beside the windows until sunrise, thinking about everything heartbreak steals from people: trust, confidence, identity, safety. But the worst thing betrayal steals is certainty. You stop trusting your own judgment afterward. You replay memories endlessly wondering how you missed obvious signs. And honestly, that was the hardest part for me, not losing Adrian, losing faith in myself. The morning of the Aurora Crown investor presentation arrived cold and gray. Manhattan buzzed with media attention surrounding the event. Business magazines called it the future of luxury architecture. Investors from across the country attended. Reporters filled the conference hall. Nathan loved every second of it. I watched part of the media coverage from my apartment television. While calmly drinking coffee, Nathan Cole continues redefining modern luxury development. I muted the television because in exactly 3 hours, everything was going to collapse. I arrived at Cole Enterprises headquarters wearing a black tailored suit Adrian once told me made me look too intimidating. Good. That was exactly the point. The building lobby buzzed with reporters, executives, investors, photographers, and assistants rushing everywhere. Massive digital banners displayed the Aurora Crown project behind Nathan's smiling face. My face should have been there, but that was about to change. As soon as I entered the lobby, conversations shifted subtly around me. People stared, whispered. The cheating scandal had already spread quietly through corporate circles. Nathan spotted me near the elevators almost immediately. For a split second, genuine panic crossed his face. Then his polished public smile returned instantly. Vanessa, Vanessa, he greeted carefully while walking toward me. I didn't realize you were attending. I smiled politely. That's funny, I replied calmly, considering I designed most of the project. His jaw tightened slightly. Not here, he muttered under his breath. I leaned closer. No, I whispered. Exactly here, for the first time in years. Nathan looked nervous around me. Good. Inside the executive conference hall, the atmosphere felt electric. Investors filled every seat while reporters adjusted cameras near the stage. Massive projector screens displayed Aurora Crown renderings behind the podium. My renderings, Adrian sat near the front beside several executives. The moment he saw me enter, his entire expression changed: shock, fear, regret. Honestly, he looked terrible. His eyes were tired, his posture tense, and for the first time since our separation, he looked genuinely small, not powerful, not confident, just weak. And strangely, seeing him like that brought me no satisfaction at all, only clarity, because the man I once worshipped emotionally suddenly looked ordinary. Nathan stepped onto the stage confidently while applause filled the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he began smoothly. Welcome to the future of luxury urban living. The projector illuminated behind him. My designs glowed across enormous screens, while reporters photographed everything proudly. For several minutes, I stayed silent. Nathan explained sustainability concepts I personally created, structural innovations I personally designed, creative philosophies he barely even understood. And then finally, he reached the final section, a revolutionary, integrated eco balance system. That system was designed by me. The room froze instantly. Nathan stopped speaking. Every head turned toward me. The silence felt enormous. I stood slowly from my chair, near the back, holding a black flash drive in my hand. My father immediately stood up from the executive table, looking furious. Vanessa, he hissed sharply, sit down. But something inside me had finally broken free permanently. No, I answered calmly. I spent my entire life sitting down. Then I walked toward the stage, and for the first time in my life, nobody stopped me. The entire conference hall went silent. Not normal silence, the heavy kind. The kind where people stop breathing because they realize they're witnessing something irreversible. Nathan stood frozen beside the podium, while projector screens behind him still displayed my architectural concepts, glowing across 40-foot digital walls. Reporters looked confused. Investors exchanged nervous glances. Cameras slowly turned toward me, and for the first time in my life, nobody interrupted me. I walked calmly toward the stage, holding the flash drive tightly in my hand, while my father stared at me with pure fury from the